We're doing a documentary on mindfulness. Do you guys know anything about mindfulness? No? We're doing a documentary on mindfulness. Oh, go ahead. Do you know what mindfulness is?
No.
Do you practice? Not at all?
No, I'm sorry.
Do you guys know anything about mindfulness?
No.
Do you guys know anything about mindfulness? Do you practice? No? It's a lot of no's. Do you guys know anything about that?
No.
Never heard of it? Okay. Do you know anything about mindfulness? What is mindfulness?
No.
Have you guys ever heard of mindfulness? We're doing a documentary. Have you ever practiced mindfulness? We're doing a documentary on mindfulness. We're doing a documentary on mindfulness. Do you know anything else?
On what?
On mindfulness?
Mindfulness.
Yeah, it's called the Mindfulness Movie.
A baby that's born, as it were, would not be presumed to be mindful necessarily, because mindfulness involves this sustained, deliberate quality of recognition.
Most of the time, most of us are just not there. We're mindless.
The mind wanders 47% of the time. And when it does wander 47% of the time,
We're not there. We don't know that we're not there because when you're not there to notice.
what's your emergency?
The world is starving for something. And it's not starving for another issue of Time magazine or Sports Illustrated. But it is definitely starving for something. And it's not just the world. We are starving for something.
When I was about 20, while I was sitting at my desk, working on some problem, I experienced what I call a shift in perspective. What had seemed so elusive was really right there in front of me. And at that moment, I realized that what I needed to do in order to see it was simply to shift my perspective. It changed my whole life because for once I finally got it. I mean, I really got it. And I understood myself and I started to understand others better. Hi. I'm Paul Harrison, an architect and an author, and one of the most common questions I get asked is, why is an architect making a movie about mindfulness? Well, that's why I want to share this story with you. You see, I was a typical post-hippie generation teenager from the early 70s with all that reckless and mindless behavior that made us think we were really cool. I mean, we loved to challenge all the rules to the point of ending up with some very serious consequences. I realized once I left high school, that was no path I wanted to stay on, and I was looking for a much better way to deal with stress and family issues, college, making money. And that led me to begin practicing mindfulness. And then about a year and a half ago, I set out on an incredible journey to find the core teachings of what mindfulness really is. You see, when I started, I took the streetwise approach. I didn't want to subscribe to any one camp, but rather find what that core essence of mindfulness is. I met with experts like Ellen Langer at Harvard, who many have called the mother of mindfulness. I also met with Congressman Tim Ryan, Guy Claxton from England, Jeffrey Schwartz, a psychiatrist, and even world-renowned authors like Dan Millman from The Peaceful Warrior. And so my mission, my passion, is to share my journey so you can start learning about mindfulness, and even more important, to learn about yourself.
All certainty creates an illusion of stability. So, certainty promotes mindlessness.
Mindlessness usually comes about by default. And it's not motivated, it never occurred to you that this thing could be other things.
Mindless mode is, I think, the mode that
we're on 90% of the time.
Most of the time we eat and read the cornflakes box, or we eat and talk, or eat and dream, or most of us eat and read, or eat and watch TV.
You get in the car, you start the car, pull it out of the driveway, you drive somewhere for 10 or 15 minutes. You arrive and you can't remember how you got there.
You can take a cigarette out of the pack, put it in your mouth, take out the lighter, light it, and be completely unaware. And you're going, and you don't remember any of that.
Because you were daydreaming the entire time.
And even when we're not in that mode, because we're thinking about something, we're mindless about almost everything else we're doing.
We aren't really aware of them because we're so busy on to the next thing, anticipating the next thing. And
mindfulness teachers describe the distracted mind as monkey mind, a monkey that just jumps around from one thing to the other.
You know, we'll do something to distract ourselves.
Because most of us get bored, we get preoccupied.
We're on the computer or we're at work.
We're just so distracted. We'll put the radio on, we'll put the TV on.
But I'm not watching it. It doesn't matter what channel it's on. It's almost like we're robots and we're listening to this command.
And the robot can only respond and react.
Mindfulness for me is just a technique of identifying what's there and distinguishing between the neuroses and the virtues or the good qualities.
The most common definition is paying attention to present moment experience.
Mindfulness is your natural state of being.
It's the awakening of possibility and the possibility of awakening.
But also it's about just noticing what is happening every moment of the day.
Mindfulness is one thing, it's paying attention
to the actions that you are taking.
It's a sustained quality of being present.
It's like being in the zone, and you can actually train your mind to be in the zone.
I call it a basic mind hygiene.
A clear-minded, observational perspective.
The experience of mindfulness
is tuning into reality as it is, as it unfolds simply right now.
Which is just really the full experience of life without getting lost in thought and becoming forgetful.
Thoughts are representations of reality. Mindfulness is the actual experience.
Is the ability to go to color white.
So mindfulness is paying attention to the moment with an open and a willingness to let go of old patterns and live in the present.
Did you get it? Hello? Did you get it? Were you even watching?
Watching what?
The experts explaining mindfulness.
Oh, yeah. I was watching.
What did it say?
Well, it was something about mindfulness.
So what does that mean?
I don't have a clue.
It's because you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, no, I did. I was listening to it.
Yeah, but you weren't paying attention, and that's the problem.
Wait, there's a problem?
Yeah, there's a problem. You don't pay attention.
I don't even know what you mean, because I could easily do two things at a time.
Yeah, you were texting and hearing voices, but you weren't listening.
What's the difference?
The difference is you were hearing voices, but you weren't actually listening. It's mindless.
All right, so tell me what they said if you're so smart.
It's that mindfulness means paying attention to what is actually happening right now, not later. This is what you need to work on.
So you just want me to be more aware, like to hear what's happening and to pay attention to what's happening right now?
Yes!
That's it.
That's a start.
Go deep enough into witnessing and observe the function of ego, and you'll discover that it's just continually running reactive loops.
We don't experience reality as it really is. We perceive it through a filter that allows us to see only what we've been conditioned to see. That's because we've become trapped in the neurobiology of our own brain.
Just like every tree has a unique set of branches, every brain has a unique pattern of neurons and connections that are both genetic and learned over time. So each and every one of us is wired differently. And it's the neural architecture of our brains
that tells us who we are and how we're going to act and react in the world.
Every thought we have is the result of a network of hundreds of billions of brain cells called neurons. Unlike other cells in our body, neurons don't touch each other. but are separated by microscopic spaces called synapses. Neurons communicate across these synapses through chemical transfers that blast from one cell to the next with a zap of electricity. Messages zip around our brain like a supersonic pinball machine. Each neuron sends and receives information to 50,000 other neurons in a rapid-fire production that all adds up to 100 billion neurons times 50,000 connections. In fact, there are more connections between neurons in a single human brain than there are stars in our galaxy. The result is a complex neural forest of networks that form our personality, our identity, and our habits. Hardly ever do we find trees that grow alike, and we don't find brains that grow alike. We are all unique. While these trillions of neuron networks often work in concert to create brainstorms of creativity and new ideas, their primary purpose is to keep each and every one of us alive and safe by recognizing patterns as they access a constantly changing environment. But sometimes, things get stuck.
Who of us doesn't have some form of addictive behavior or another?
Maybe for personal comfort or because of a desire or whatever is behind it, and changing them is very difficult for a lot of people, and they struggle with that. And so a lot of them are stuck in old routines, old patterns.
Eventually, we become stuck in these patterns and live our lives on autopilot, essentially becoming more and more mindless as we continue to view the world through filters instead of seeing things as they really are. As we grow older, our actions and reactions become conditioned by our hopes, our intentions, anxieties, motivations, loves, hates, desires, fears, or frustrations. Thus, we analyze before we experience, and we filter before we see.
Explaining that in brain terms is not hard to understand. I've done it in a lot of my writing, which is we have habit centers in our brain. These habit centers in our brain roughly are shared with reptiles, and they are very unconscious. So you literally do get into behavioral loops that you're doing without being aware of it.
Our perception operates increasingly like a defense mechanism, trapping us in patterns of behavior that have less to do with present reality and more to do with past experience or expectations.
But if we start changing that neural architecture through intentionally paying attention to what's here in a particular way, then we start training that healthy reactivity, that more adaptive reactivity that can help us with stress, anxiety, depression, trauma, and even addiction.
As long as we continue to perceive reality as we've been conditioned to perceive it, we're destined to live a life in endless reactive loops of conditioned responses.
Mindfulness changes your relationship with that habit center so that it's not in control in anything like the same degree.
By noticing the looping that happens in any particular moment, that reactive looping that's sending us into these states of suffering.
But if you practice mindfulness once or twice daily, you'll be able to change your brain physiology, and you'll be able to change your nervous system.
Even 8 minutes or more a day can grow measurable neural structure.
So anything in the brain that is changing and being retained is through some kind of neuroplasticity. And again, it's not rewiring major pathways, it's changing the subtle connectivity of the pathways that exist.
So neuroplasticity changes the brain from being more centered in primary emotion, the kind of emotion that we share with all the other mammals, to the executive centers of the brain.
We do form new neurons and new connections. So when we practice mindfulness, we develop new circuits.
Neurons that fire together, wire together throughout the entire nervous system. They do so preferentially for what's in the field of focused attention.
The brain is more plastic, even in adults, than people realize. I mean, there is a lot of room for change in those habit loops, and it does not take that long.
So little mindfulness practices, sustained over time, can add up to big changes for the better over the course of your life.
The brain is plastic, and what it has learned, it can unlearn. So becoming mindful means untraining our brains, emptying them of preconceived patterns. This easily accessible ability releases us from constraints and quickly changes mindless behavior into mindful behavior. But what's more important is that mindfulness actually evolves the brain. It actually advances the evolutionary process of our brain to a state where we act in a wiser, more compassionate mode to not only ourselves, but to others and our global environment.
So I think if we leave around 5 p.m., we should be there around 9-ish.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Are you excited?
Yeah, what about you?
Of course. I've been waiting to go for so long. Are you gonna bring anything?
Like what?
Like a surprise?
A surprise?
I think it would be nice to get a surprise.
Well, like, if I told you it was a surprise, then it wouldn't, like, be a surprise.
I know, but I was just giving you a heads up that maybe it would be nice to get a surprise is all.
All right. Well,
Why do you keep checking your phone?
I don't keep checking my phone.
Sure you do. I pay attention to everything you do, and you keep checking it. It's a bad habit, and it's completely mindless.
Oh, yeah, well, so what if it is? What if it's a bad habit?
Because I need your full attention. And look, now you're getting defensive about it. It's your reactive loops like swinging all out of control. You don't even realize it.
Reactive what?
Reactive loops, it's when you react to the same thing over and over again. Do you realize you're doing it?
Well, yeah, now I do. Thanks for you pointing that out. I realized it. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Now, recent research in cognitive science has confirmed that performance increases when we think less. If a tennis player were to think of where a ball might be instead of seeing where that ball actually is, it would be too late and he'd miss it. Mindfulness enables us to respond quickly and effortlessly to attain peak performance in any situation.
Trying is a really interesting phenomenon because to try to do something is to not do it.
We're trying to do things rather than just doing things.
If I said to somebody, could I have a glass of water? And they said, I'll try to get you a glass of water, that wouldn't make much sense.
What does trying look like? And it looks like this.
Try not, there is no try. Just do or do not.
Which is actually very trying to be in that state of kind of having to look like you're trying.
And accept whatever you do is fine for now. We'll get better over time. So don't try to do anything.
A very good example, I think, is from the film Matrix. There is this moment when Morpheus and Neo having a kung fu sparring, and Morpheus says, "Don't try to hit me," and hit me. And that's exactly, we're trying to do things rather than just doing things. And mindfulness teaches us how to do things without trying to do things.
When you prepare for an interview and you go into the interview and then they ask you questions that you haven't prepared for and you're sort of thrown because you're there ready-made with your answers and you don't do a very good job of it. And then when you come out of the interview and you're walking down the stairs and you have what the French call l'esprit d'escalier, it's like, oh yeah, I should have said that. That's what I should have done. It's like, then you get your intelligence back. Before the interview, before you were wise, and afterwards you are wise. But in between, you are otherwise. And otherwise means it's like you're trying to find something clever which you bring to the situation and want to use.
What I think we're able to achieve with the mindfulness training is the best of both worlds. The alertness of the central nervous system without the anxiety, and the calm, relaxation, and pleasantness of the parasympathetic system without the drowsiness. So there was an interesting study where they were in the scanner during the same experiment, and they were presented with the digits on the screen between 1 and 9, and they had to judge whether the digit was odd or even. So as you can imagine, it's a simple task. You don't need to think about it much. But the novice meditator here, you can see the brain is on fire. The prefrontal cortex is engaged, a lot of visual cortex is engaged, motor cortex is engaged. I called it ego effort. This person has a very strong sense of, really need to do this task. I'm really going to go for it. I'm going to do it well. Behaviorally, they're performing on the same level. It's a simple task, what we call on the ceiling level, so both performing well. But what's happening with the experienced meditator? Only absolutely essential bits of the brain for the performance of this task. So one is expending a lot of energy to do the same task, whereas the other one just, you can say, in a state of flow.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, I try stuff all the time.
You don't get it?
No, I don't get it.
Okay. Try to take this pen from me.
Okay.
See, you weren't paying attention.
What? So.
Try to take the pen from me.
Okay.
See, you're not paying attention.
Well,
I said, try to take the pen. I didn't say, take the pen.
well, what do you mean?
Well, trying is not doing. Hold the pen.
Okay.
See, I'm trying to take the pen, but I'm not actually taking the pen. Remember? Mindfulness teaches you to do, not try.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Maybe you'll remember the next time you try to meet me on time.
Yeah, maybe.
The essence of mindfulness is to observe what's there and what we bring that observation to, with a quality of being aware of our own awareness.
Which is sort of the opposite of being absent-minded. It's like dedicating your awareness to the present moment.
You're either mindful in your whole body and in your interactions, or you're asleep and unconscious. And there's nothing like a close relationship to show you, to mirror what your unconscious patterns are.
So, first step is to just be with what's there, which means that all that's there is mindfulness. We're just aware of it.
We're paying attention, being present, rather than being distracted by so many thoughts.
If you want to summarize it, mindfulness allows you to be authentically present without the interference of preoccupations about the past or the future.
So a baby that's born, as it were, would not be presumed to be mindful necessarily, because mindfulness involves this sustained, deliberate quality of recollectedness.
It's the capacity of human beings to be aware.
And our human awareness can be focused in something we call attention.
So being able to be attentive to what we're doing, which is the essence of mindfulness, is incredibly helpful.
We just are operating in an incomplete field of awareness, and I'm not sure the field of awareness can never be complete, but it can be much vaster.
And it makes you mindful of these very fundamental physical processes. And it makes you feel more grounded in your own body.
So when you practice mindfulness, you're not only becoming more aware of things that before you weren't aware of, but you're developing these skills that can allow you to sense the inner world.
Awareness is change. It is the action of change.
And we need to awaken the mind, to expand our sense of self, to really alert our attention, to expand our awareness, and you can use mindfulness as a process to do it.
So once you're aware of that, you can change it. Until you're aware of it, you can't change it.
Cultivate some mindfulness, be present, practice being in your body, practice tasting your food in a way that is fascinated and absorbed and non-judgmental.
So mindfulness is about noticing what you're feeling, paying attention, and not judging it.
By non-judgmental, the explanation is
don't edit. I mean, you gotta let it come in.
So it's an awareness without the discriminating mind, without a mind that is saying, this is better than that, comparing without the comparing mind.
So it's good to notice when our mind is wandering and be able to take note of it without judgment, and be curious about what's on the mind and gently bring it back.
So pay attention with a curious, receptive perspective, allowing you to see new aspects and angles in everyday events.
Close your eyes.
Why?
Because I want to test something.
Okay.
You feel anything?
I don't know. What am I supposed to feel?
Oh, great. Confirming what I already knew.
Oh, really? What's that?
That you're completely unaware of everything around you.
Ooh, what makes you so special?
I'm aware.
Oh, really? Big deal.
Yeah, really? Why don't you test me? Go ahead.
All right, I will test you.
Okay.
All right. What am I doing?
Waving your hands in front of my face.
Yeah, because you're obviously cheating.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
looking.
cheating. No, I'm not.
All
Do
right.
something else. 4 fingers in front of my face.
All right.
3 fingers. Oh, come on, make it harder. Your hands are above my head.
What? How are you doing that?
Because I'm completely aware. Don't you want to be aware?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so then start paying attention to the little things around you by being mindful.
I mean, I'll try.
No, there's no try, remember?
Oh, yeah, right. I forgot about that. So.
You are not your brain means you are not your thoughts.
And what happens during mindfulness practice is that people are less likely to be, as it were, constantly stressed, rushed off their feet, but also they're less likely to respond to their own negative thinking.
But the first step is to stop and be aware of your emotional state.
And recognizing that you have thoughts, but you aren't your thoughts, that you don't have to identify with the voice that's producing thoughts in your mind.
That thought that's coming in, I mean, that is not you.
That's a production of your habits, of your experience, but it's a commentary on your experience. It isn't your experience. It's like mistaking the menu for the meal that you're going to eat.
So your emotional states are recognized as being emotional states, not who you are. And they're always passing, they're always in flux. It's happy and sad and angry, fearful.
Mindful awareness is like this vast sky where problems and concerns and issues are like these little passing clouds or thoughts that just pass through your mind.
Look at that thought.
Oh, you mean my thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from last night.
I know.
Yeah, that's actually, I was mad last night, so that's like one angry little thought.
Yeah, I know. But don't judge it. Just look at it.
But why?
Because when you judge your thoughts, then you're engaging in it, and then it just upsets you.
Yeah, I actually got pretty upset, like watching my thoughts.
Well, don't be upset, okay? Let me explain this to you. Like, if my hand is the thought, okay? The space in between is the awareness. Don't focus on my hand. Focus on the awareness. You see? When you're mindful of it, then you feel better.
Wow, that's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah. You know, like when you're mindless, then your brain doesn't understand it. But if you're mindful, your brain gets it. You just need to change your brain.
Well, what's wrong with the one I have?
Where do I start?
Well, yeah, that's real funny.
Well, at least you're starting to get it.
Yeah, I mean, I am.
So mindfulness can get you out of these reactive loops and change the structure of your brain.
Remember what you did bad or did unmindfully and try to bring mindfulness into it the next time a similar action in your life takes place.
It's really hard to say all of a sudden I'm not going to be fearful or anxious or depressed or whatever today. You can't just tell yourself and it goes away, right? We wouldn't need shrinks and mindfulness and all these other things if that's the way it worked.
So you can choose, you get in touch with this idea of choice, what I call a choice point. You can choose what you want to do with it. How do you want to relate to life? You don't need to be enslaved by the automatic reactions that are there.
Consciousness tries to get control of it, but it's hard. And basically what we have to do is we observe ourselves acting in a certain way, and then we try to put in checks and balances in our brains that let us cope with those reactions when they're occurring, rather than preventing them from occurring in the first place. That's the hard part, preventing them from occurring.
You are choosing to shift your center of identification from the stream to the watcher.
And mindfulness can give you better control over your, not only your cortex, but your ability of your cortex to control the other parts of your brain.
Why would one choose self-limitation when you can be more free, more open?
Wait a minute, what are you doing?
Well, I'm calling you out.
Calling me out?
Yeah, I'm sick of you thinking you're so much better than me.
Mindfulness isn't about being better.
Oh, there you go again with that little mindfulness talk.
All right, if this is how you want it, then I'm gonna show you.
Yeah, I'm calling you out.
It didn't have to be this way, you know?
Yeah, if you stopped thinking you were better than me, I wouldn't even have to do this.
Don't you get it? You have them both, mindful and mindless. It's part of the same coin.
I'm saying you got both sides of the coin. What's all this coin talk?
I'm saying you get to choose which one you use, being mindful or being mindless. You have both parts to you.
But I thought I always had to be mindful.
Not at all. Look, every day when you're doing your routine, you're using the mindless side because you're used to it. It's a routine, so you just go through the motions. But what happens is over time, you tend to do that for your whole life. So you need to be mindful of other parts of your life so that you're not mindless all the time.
So, does this mean I can't call you out?
No. But if you really want to, we'll do it this one time and it can be our mindless moment together.
All right. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, bring it.
Ow, man, I'm hit and you didn't even draw your gun.
You didn't even get hit. You're not even paying attention. See, when you're more mindful, you'll start realizing these things. So start practicing.
I'll practice just for you.
Mindfulness, as I study it, it's the very simple process of noticing new things.
And as you notice new things, several things happen. The first is that you come to see that you didn't know it as well as you thought you did.
It's like pulling back the curtain on The Wizard of Oz, and we see what's really there.
And this act of noticing is the essence of engagement.
It just opens you up to becoming aware of things that were there before, but were not in awareness.
It doesn't matter what you notice. The things you notice can be silly, but just the noticing breaks down the boundary between you and that which is being noticed. So now, everything that's old becomes new again, in some sense, and becomes naturally interesting.
And life becomes a bit less serious, and we take ourselves less seriously.
So you're more energetic when you're doing this, not less so. The neurons are firing, and in the earliest work we did, when we taught people to be mindful in nursing homes, we found that they lived longer.
So really our only choice is, are we paying attention or are we not? And even at that, some people will pay attention better than others.
What do you think?
About what?
Look.
Well, I'm looking. What?
Are you blind?
No.
Look at it.
What am I supposed to say?
My new hair.
Oh, yeah.
Duh.
That's new hair.
You're just being mindless again, not noticing new things.
Oh, you know what? Well, whoop-de-doo, okay? So I don't notice things.
Well, you need to be more mindful so you can notice new things and pay attention, therefore paying better attention to me.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Do you get it?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
And we're beginning to drill down through mindfulness practice into the core question of psychology, like who the hell are we in the first place? What is the self? That's what study of psychology is all about.
The term ego gets a bad rap, but it was meant neutral. By Freud, for example, he drew on the original Latin and Greek roots to use the word ego, meaning ich, or I. It simply is a self-identification.
It's ego, whether it's a hyperinflated, I'm the best person, best speaker in the world, or I'm the worst in the world and people aren't going to like me. Both of those are ego-driven.
When someone says you have a huge ego, that's not normally considered a compliment.
An individual person's identity, that's not a problem. Egotism, concern about oneself and concern about how the outcome of your performance is going to reflect on your feelings about yourself and what other people will think of you, all of that complication, that is what gets in the way.
But I think we have the possibility to evolve culturally, to understand the neurobiology of a separate self and how it is, in fact, a delusion.
So the conscious self is not in charge. It's here to learn. That's the function of the ego, to learn what we need for this lifetime.
So much in modern culture promotes competition and a sense of self as separate. These are culturally learned delusions. And sadly, they're not only making people have meaningless lives and unhealthy physiological states, but it's destroying our planet. Mindfulness is an invitation to actually experience in reality how interconnected we are. And I'm going to get joy from your accomplishments. I mean, that's the kind of world we need to push for.
To give you an example, people that are in institutions where they're chronically depressed, if you listen to them as they talk, every third word is I. I'm not feeling this, I'm feeling terrible. I'm guilty, I'm bad, I did this, I did that, I. I is like the color white. It has no color. You color it red, blue, green with a feeling that represents the personality that you feel is the correct personality for that action. And you may have gotten this from observing your parents or other parental figures or friends or whatever who adapt similar types of colorings to their I word when they're having a certain emotional response to a situation. Mindfulness is the ability to go to color white.
I think I'd want you to teach me how to become more mindful.
Oh, great.
Yeah, because the other day I just had this little incident where I wasn't mindful.
What happened?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but basically I was just on my phone texting, and I was just crossing the street, and the next thing I knew this big bus showed up and almost ran me over.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost died.
You're gonna get yourself killed, dude.
I know, that's why I turned to you to become more mindful.
Okay, well, I think you're already being more mindful. This is a step in the right direction. Okay? Yeah. Let me show you. This is you with mindlessness, okay? This is your space, the awareness, this tiny little space.
Okay.
This is your awareness with mindfulness,
Right.
okay? Mindlessness, mindfulness. Mindlessness, mindfulness. You see how you have more awareness to learn about your surroundings. You would have seen the bus.
Yeah.
Otherwise, mindlessness. That bus would have ran you over.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Exactly.
Get it? Got it? Good?
Yes, I gets it, got it, good. Gets it, got it, good.
All right.
Mark Twain once said, "I've had many troubles in my life, most of which never happened."
Stress makes all kinds of physical ailments worse because a lot of what is distressing about physical illness, whether you're talking about pain or whether you're talking about any kind of debilitating state, fatigue, what makes it worse is how we process it centrally in our brain.
So I feel myself getting anxious. One of those unconscious systems has been triggered. So you now say, okay, I can't stop it, so what can I do? I can breathe. Take in air. That kicks on the parasympathetic nervous system, which counteracts the sympathetic, which is the fight-flight system, and kind of slows everything down a little bit.
And so when we change the system, that's here the stress cycle between our thoughts that come up. So our thoughts, an event happens and we immediately perceive something as scary, or we need to do something about that, something is urgent or it's important. Our brain creates a snap judgment of it being good, bad, right, wrong, fair or unfair, and goes into a reactive mode.
As the great stress researcher Hans Selye put it, it's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to stress.
Stress is a function not of events, but the view you take of the event. If you open up that view in multiple ways, it becomes less stressful.
What we can help is how we respond to stress.
That's why breathing works so well, because it reduces the stress in the brain. It reduces the drive from the sympathetic system that makes you, that's releasing adrenaline.
When you get a call from somebody and you're really stressed out and you just take the call, you're like, yeah, okay, you know, all right, I'll call you back, you know. But if you're calm and you're not stressed out, you take the call and you take your time and you recognize that this is important to you or to the other person.
With the less time for reflection that we have nowadays, with so much attention to technology filling the spaces of our day, we don't really have a lot of time for reflection.
Can you give yourself 3 minutes? Do you care enough about yourself to give yourself 3 minutes, maybe a minute in the morning, a minute in the afternoon, a minute in the evening, to just sit and be present with your breath?
If we believe we can do it, we're going to be more motivated to actually do it. If we don't believe we can do something, we're not going to actually do it.
The things we can't do right now, we can learn to do tomorrow. When we realize that there's no outcome we must have, that all of this leads us just to be more at peace, easier. less reason for us to need to hit somebody else over the head.
And mindfulness actually reduces the risk of depression by half in people who are the most recurrent depressed, people with 3 or more episodes that many other treatments had failed to treat. We also know that it's as good as antidepressants in doing that. Now, one thing that we didn't know 8 years ago is that repeatable? And we found it is repeatable, both in our lab and in labs around the world, in lots of different countries, have found the same result.
A simple shift of perspective can change your relationship to the problem when you take a second look at it with a mindful manner.
Oh man, what's happening to me?
You're out of focus.
What the heck?
Well, maybe if you were a little more mindful, these things wouldn't happen.
What should I do?
Try some finger tracing.
What the heck's finger tracing?
Okay, watch me. Watch me, okay?
Okay.
Now you're gonna take your finger and very slowly go like this and see each nook and cranny. Okay. Focus very slowly.
So you mean like this?
No, that's too fast and mindless.
Fast.
You're not gonna focus like that, okay? Very slowly, watch it.
Oh, so you mean slow like this. Wow.
Yes,
Really,
exactly.
I really like this. Like, I'm getting into the groove of it. Like,
Keep focusing, not bad.
I can feel a difference.
Yeah, see, it's not so hard.
Yeah, this is very nice. I'm just gonna go home and just get busy finger tracing.
Mindfulness enables you to get value for money out of your food, right? You taste it. You're more present.
Oh, mindless eating brought me into mindful eating, actually. I never met a box of cookies I didn't like.
Instead of eating absent-mindedly, going to a restaurant, spend £25 for a fillet steak, di-da-di-da-di-da, and then not noticing yourself eating it because you're busy having an earnest conversation with your friend about your relationship with your mothers. It's like you just wasted 25 quid.
And mindful eating actually helps people broaden their view of food.
So when I crunch into an apple and somebody says, "Why are you making that loud crunching noise?" It's bothering me. I think of my grandmother being unable to crunch an apple, and I say, wow, I'm just enjoying every bite.
Usually whenever I eat, whether it's just noticing the food, smelling the food, tasting the food, maybe slowing down a little bit as I'm eating the food, what I find is if my hunger is really high, if my hunger is in the 7 to 10 range, which is the extreme hunger, and I've waited and haven't attended to my earlier hunger signals, then I am prone, like anybody is, I think, to mindless eating.
If we all used our brains in a more energy efficient ways, you don't eat as much and you feel much more energized when you don't spend all this metabolic energy on ego-related processes, on chatter.
So at a very basic level, mindfulness enables you to kind of, you taste your experience more vividly or more richly.
Oh,
How's your food?
that's good.
You sure?
Yeah, it's all right.
You're not even tasting it.
I like it a lot. I tasted it.
No. Stop what you're doing and pay attention to eating your food.
Well,
Take this out
okay. Wow.
and pay attention to what you're eating.
Okay.
Chew it slowly.
Let me see.
Really taste it.
Like this?
Slowly eat it. Really take it in.
Hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Taste it, take it in, and
Alright.
smell it, Really taste it.
I gotta get another grape to smell it.
Well, get in there. Really get into your food.
I mean, I smell it. It smells like grape.
Okay, just take one bite.
So juicy in the
Do you
middle.
see the difference when you're mindful?
Mm.
When you're mindful and you're in the moment,
Oh yeah, that's
how much
awesome.
better it is?
Yeah, and I think it's like really delicious.
Right, well, because it's more delicious because you're being mindful.
It's good stuff.
Mindfulness has not only become an increasingly popular practice in schools around the world, but the U.S. military has begun to incorporate it into their centers in an effort to help veterans and active duty soldiers overcome some of the issues that they deal with, such as post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. I recently met with Dr. Jackie Morey, Senior Scientist Project Director at USC Institute for Creative Technologies, and Dr. Valerie Rice, the Chief of the Army Research Laboratory Field Element at Fort Sam Houston in Texas. This is the largest Army medical training facility in the world. Let's take a look at how this all came about.
It was about the same time that the troops were returning from the conflicts overseas, and we were beginning to realize that there were some pretty big issues with PTSD or other psychological health issues.
I was in combat arms. I was during the Vietnam era. And they taught you how to be aggressive.
You are scanning all the time, and you never let anybody know what's going on with you because you lose your essence of surprise.
I mean, if you hurt, so what? Mission is first.
You don't want people to think you're weak, especially if you're a leader.
A chain is only as strong as the weakest link, and you didn't want to be that link, because if you was that link, you was finished.
If you're in battle, you've already got enough enemies. I mean, then having your own emotions to be another one, it's tougher.
You just want to do what you're told to do, and you don't want to reach out and ask for help.
To go to behavior help was, you're not a man, you ain't no soldier, type thing.
Any activity with mental health was subject to medical discharge or disciplinary discharge. You just didn't. That's simple.
So that prevented a lot of soldiers, especially young soldiers, from going and getting treatment.
You just don't bother to tell people because even not being able to keep your personal life in control is perceived as weakness.
As time went by and I got involved with the VA, I found out that it was acceptable, but I did it after I got out of the service because it just was not acceptable at that point in time.
There's still stigma. There's still stigma to going to a behavioral health center. And so for those individuals who simply wouldn't go because it is behavioral health, then we can offer something like this that's over a virtual world where they can be, if they choose to be, anonymous.
Dr. Stephen Hickman and Alan Goldstein both teach mindfulness in the form of mindfulness-based stress reduction through the virtual world of Second Life to veterans.
So we were approached really out of the blue by the folks at ICT saying, you know, we're looking for experts in mindfulness-based stress reduction.
We got the idea to use a virtual world as sort of a place of relaxation for veterans. And we found experts who were very interested in working with us.
And they told us this amazing project that they've been working for quite some time in providing virtual reality and virtual world training in various military settings.
And we had done a small village, an Iraqi village, as a proof of concept for something else in the virtual world. And I took one of those veterans over to see this village. He didn't last 10 seconds in the desert. He teleported out. He said, I can't handle this. It's too real. So that was the impetus for doing something that looks like a hunting lodge, a ski lodge, something that's very mountainous and green with lots of water. And we factored that into the design of the world that we made for them.
Well, when we first started this study and we had the computers issued to us, it was amazing and cool and exciting, and you know, you pick your own animated body and you got to learn how to fly, and they teach us how to walk, and That was all really very exciting, and you can choose different worlds to go to and listen and see and just interact online in an amazing way.
So we're looking at whether or not teaching mindfulness improves those areas, both for veterans and for active duty.
And you might need just something as simple as learning mindfulness strategies and techniques.
If we can intervene with some of this and make it a palatable activity, something that is a tool rather than something mysterious.
Which again makes the whole idea of being an avatar kind of attractive. Plus you can look however you feel like looking if you want to take the time.
For us, it was a whole novel idea of something that we've been teaching that really involves face-to-face contact in our minds, and this idea of doing this in a virtual world where all of us is represented by an avatar provides this great opportunity so that we're not actually physically there in that world. There's this being that we get to create. We can dress the way we want, we can shape the way we want. And people who have perhaps anxiety about being in a social setting can still sort of be in a virtual social setting where they're still in the safety of their own home.
We would navigate our avatar online figures to the designated location in a pavilion. Our voices would come through the headsets and the headphones, and we would just interact online in a group forum.
And what's great about it for veterans is even if they're in rural areas, they can come together here. They don't have to be able to go to a center.
People can be physically anywhere in the world, but can still appear in Second Life in our classroom.
I think some people were afraid they might even cry, and they didn't want to cry in front of the group. But when you're online, you can cry all you want.
Participating online was I found it very, very, very good because everybody interacted with one another, and we did share a lot of information about each other.
Some of my best moments that I've learned how to relax is because of this course.
But that class taught me that I do matter, and that I have to get myself in order to not only help me, but help my folks, my friends, my family members.
It does apply to all walks of life. You know, it's not just from military stressors. It's common everyday things that people are going through.
No matter what your scenario, if you want to feel better, do better, then don't let your life pass you by. Be a part of your life. Slow things down. Pay attention to what's going on.
The program, it just actually makes you aware of your surroundings.
I'm enjoying life a lot more. The simple things in life, like, you know, my chihuahua sleeping on my foot, whereas before I might not have realized how she felt or how comforting that was for her to be there. Now I can kind of, you know, be a little bit more mindful of the pleasure that she obtains from me and the pleasure that I obtain from just being around her.
I really sit back now and just take my time, sit outside, drink some tea, listen to the wind blow through the trees, listen to the birds, count the cars, how many color cars or whatever, like I used to do when I was a kid, and I just feel great.
If I'm more relaxed and if I'm okay, then people around me are probably going to be more relaxed and okay.
Instead of just immediately getting upset when something irritates you, you might think, okay, well, maybe this person does have something going on, whereas before you would just get mad and call that individual a name or, you know, just swear or something.
And some of those habits are bad. Losing your temper in traffic, getting yourself riled up.
He ran on my bumper, switched around in front of me, and turned right in front of me again, and turned right there, right in front of me. I mean, you know, he could have waited 2 seconds. If I hadn't been, you know, going to this mindfulness class, I'm not going to tell you what I would have done because I don't want to incriminate myself.
So it's really just becoming in touch with myself and realizing who I am.
And as a result of that, be calmer, feel better, have less pain, have less anxiety, less depression.
Mindfulness just makes me think of how everything is, how everything actually is. For example, we had to do an eating exercise, and being in the military, we usually, you know, eat quick because we always have something else to do.
I wolf my food down because of habit. Military, you know,
I had never really taken time to what I call savor the food that I eat, that I consume.
And that's still right now a struggle for me to sit and enjoy a meal.
Doing this mindful exercise, I got to be able to, actually taste it. I found out that all my taste buds do work, and food is delicious if you take time to eat it.
And slow down and actually taste what you eat is a challenge to me.
But now I take time to connect with myself and my thoughts and just be okay with me. So that's what mindfulness is to me.
For me, it's slow motion. It is my choice to slow things down, to take a breath, to snap it all back into perspective.
It makes me, or it invites me to slow down, concentrate on self. I learned some structural activity, which was important to have. I'd never considered walking meditation.
For example, I was walking on the outside of this building, and I just was free. It seemed like I was, just free. I didn't have any problems.
And the thing that makes this different from regular walking is that your focus is desperately on the slowest motion of steps that you can take.
You just walk and, you pay attention where you're going, but you tune everything out.
It's almost like slow motion, which to me is most of what mindfulness represents, putting everything in slow motion.
And you can really, really relax.
It does take every bit of focus. So you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're just thinking, wow, this is a neat experience to walk.
It's not easy being a teenager these days. The constant pressure of fitting in, growing up, going through puberty and keeping up with the world that moves faster than ever before can adversely affect the mind of the adolescent.
The Mindfulness in Schools project was created when some teaching colleagues and I shared an ambition to bring together two things that were really close to our hearts. One was mindfulness practice, which we've been doing for many years, and the other was the art of classroom teaching. And we ended up writing a 9-week classroom introduction to mindfulness, which we called .B. And .B was really our answer to the challenge we set ourselves, which was to write a mindfulness course which was engaging, fun, and memorable, and also of practical use on the roller coaster that is adolescence.
That we will spend a lot of time cramming kids' brains with all the facts that they need for their history or their geography or their languages or their sciences, but we never really turn the lens inwards on their minds. And the great thing about mindfulness is that it gives you a tool to deploy when you find yourself in a stressful situation. And you know, okay, if I just pause, if I notice how my breathing is, I don't necessarily try to control it, I just notice where it is. It switches me out of the thinking mode, the ruminative, cognitive mode, and into the sensing mode.
And what a lot of research is telling us at the moment, and what I know from my own experience and from the kids that I taught, is that
our kids are pretty tough on themselves now. I think it's the stress and anxiety and all of these things, and achievement, the achievement ethic that we have in the culture. All of these things actually put tremendous pressure on kids now.
In fact, in today's world, teens are more under pressure and experiencing higher levels of stress than ever before. An increasing demand in technology, academic preparation, and life transitions all result in physical and emotional stressors such as bad temper, anxiety, depression, and attention deficit disorder. And I wanted to find out more, so I went to the University of California, San Diego, the Center of Mindfulness, and spoke with Director Steve Hickman and course instructor Lorraine Hobbs.
We were running groups, mindfulness-based stress reduction groups for adults for several years, and then as we talked to people, other people who'd taken the mindfulness-based stress reduction course and had seen what it had done for them, they were sort of thinking, wow, my teenager could really benefit from this. All the stress of teen life these days.
Almost my entire life, as far as I can remember, I've been dealing with depression, anger, and a good deal of anxiety.
Not being able to handle my emotions well enough.
I had a short fuse, and I have ADHD.
I was struggling with my depression. I would fight with my parents a lot, and I would take it out on them.
It got to the point where I started lashing out at my parents. So my mom came to me like, okay, we need to find something to control your temper and to control your ADHD way more. And she found this mindfulness thing, and I was like, fine, I'll try it.
I'd seen the website for the Mindfulness Center and kind of saw that there was a teen group. So I came home one day and I told my husband about it. And I said, I'm just going to tell her she's going.
I wasn't really sure, was it meditation? Was it like a group therapy group? I wasn't sure. And then I came and I kind of got a gist of what it was.
I hadn't got the practice down, but I was less resistant to go. So after maybe 2 months, I liked it a lot.
I've tried other stuff. I've tried the count to 10 strategy that doesn't really work.
After the first day, I kind of just realized there's no turning back. I can't go back because where am I going to go? So I was like, I better do it right.
After the first couple times, I really look forward to coming here and doing it.
First few times, I was like, this makes sense to me. I can actually do it.
This is the first thing I've ever done that was really all about the mind, which I think helps get to the root of the problems.
They started teaching me little intricate things they have, the finger tracing, 7-Eleven, self-checking, all these different techniques that have been perfected.
Mindfulness teaches for you to be mindful of yourself, to be one with yourself.
Mindfulness is being not mindless.
You take a moment and you just take a breath, and that calms me down a lot, especially when you're really anxious or mad. That one helps me.
It's like if you have an uncomfortable feeling of sadness or anger, you're not using those tools to exactly run away from it, but to instead examine it in a way that you're able to let it go, but at the same time dissect it and understand the feeling in a more objective way without getting attached to it as well.
Bring yourself in and really,
Mindfulness has really helped me not to control my thoughts, because you're never really going to be able to control your thoughts 100%. Your mind will always wander to things, but it's about redirecting your thoughts and reining in your thoughts and being able to bring them to something more positive.
I think it's for me, it's not about forgetting your emotions or what's happening. It's more just detaching yourself from the action, your emotion, but at the same time observing it and accepting it.
If my problem was this cushion, I sit on your problem. Learn to be with your problem.
The life of a teenager now is probably far more stressful even than when I went through it. And why not give your teen the tools to learn how to manage their own stress, like we're all, as adults trying to learn to.
I have the tools now to understand what I'm feeling, and because I'm really shy, so when I go and try to perform in front of people, I get really, really nervous. So I have used mindfulness for that because it calms me down and I feel more comfortable then.
I try and hide all of my anxiety and depression and stuff, but with my mom, she sees everything, and so she says she's really noticed a huge difference in my attention and my moods, so I guess that's proof of the effectiveness of it.
I learned not to judge myself as much and think about the present, because when I think about the past or the future, that's what causes me a lot of anxiety.
I've got a mile-long fuse now. It's ridiculous. It's really helped me.
If you're making eggs, you're mindfully making eggs. It's an experience now, not just a task.
I used to wake up 3-4 times in the night, and now I only wake up twice.
It actually really helped me and my stress levels.
I've noticed a huge amount of change. My mood swings aren't nearly as violent. My stress is completely down. I feel more confident, more alive.
I was in a very sorry state before I discovered the practice, before I discovered mindfulness. You see, I'm bipolar, type 2, and as the diagnosis, tells you, I feel extremely deep and powerful emotions at almost any time, switching very rapidly. And for a while, I felt as if I was a victim of these feelings, like they were something that I couldn't control, like they were a monster inside me. But then, a year ago, I started going to the mindfulness group, and the changes that have happened since then, I can't believe how different things are now, how much better my life is.
I think the ambition of the Mindfulness in Schools project is partly just to raise awareness of what mindfulness is and give all kids a taste of it. You know, we're not trying to convert everyone into deep mindfulness practitioners. We're just trying to make them aware of what it is, because it's common sense.
This, to me, seems to be the most fundamental thing that we should teach our kids. There's nothing else to be taught if you haven't learned how to pay attention.
So when you teach mindfulness at home to your kids, you're actually giving them this incredible source of social and emotional learning. You're giving them a source of resilience. So those kids actually have a different feel than kids who have a mind, of course, but don't see the mind.
You've got to train the teachers. If the teachers aren't being mindful, how are the kids ever going to be mindful? But I don't think we should be thinking that every kid in the school is going to want to get up in the morning and practice mindfulness for half an hour. I think it is realistic for every kid in a school to be aware of mindfulness, to know what it is, to have enjoyed learning about it, to have valued the experience, so that some of them, yes, do go on to become mindfulness teachers.
In a sense, we human beings are on our own. And maybe time for us to grow up or grow down and become planetary adults. And that would mean, in some sense, a deep experiential grounding in interconnectedness. And if that's so, then maybe we have a certain kind of responsibility, if we are ever going to grow into being a planetary adult, to actually inhabit the present moment or rediscover it. Inhabit the present moment or rediscover it. Inhabit the present moment or rediscover it.
Hey.
Hi.
You notice anything different?
I sure do.
Uh-huh. Tell me.
You got a new shirt.
Yep.
You became mindful.
I did. I became mindful. Aren't you proud of me?
Extremely. Wonderfulness, ridiculousness, with a little sprinkle of mindfulness. You really learned a lot with this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not a big deal if you pay attention, like you learn it.
Yeah, I knew you had it in you. Now we can be mindful together.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't so hard, right?
No, it wasn't hard. It was easy.
High five it.
Thanks.
Woo!